Hello everyone, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, Game7Baseball.com. A lot of great stuff coming on. In a couple weeks we'll be out at our first spring showdown. Got a lot of great stuff going on. The new venue out in Warrenton, Turf Fields. We're excited. We're looking forward to it. You got to make sure you come over to the studio that we'll have out at the ballpark. Come and say hello to us. We got some great stuff going on with Prime Sports Midwest, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Game7Baseball.com. Today, I have a special guest on our Prime Sports Midwest call-in link, Mr. Daryl Bradley from MSHSAA, taking the time out of his busy schedule today to talk with us about, he is the new executive, I believe it's the executive director of baseball, correct?
Yes, I'm assistant executive director, and baseball is one of my sports.
So you just taken over that from Doug Fessler, and how's it going so far?
So far, so good. It's been a complete just 360 from what I had. Well, it's related. I was a longtime athletic director and coach for Monad High School for 23 years, and I've been in the office here since July 1. It's been a lot of learning. Got through a championship over the winter with wrestling and went straight into baseball. A lot of preparation has gone into it. I think so far so good. Not too many fires to put out, but I think you got a lot of good coaches and a lot of ADs that have a pretty good idea of what's going on. So there hadn't been too many things thrown my way, but a lot of pitch counts, verifications, and things like that, canceled games, and that definitely makes the day a little busier. But so far, so good. It's been a great experience so far.
Well, I think, baseball is very healthy in the state of Missouri. Correct?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I'm not reinventing the wheel or changing anything. I think it's in a fantastic place, but that's been my experience so far. But there's a lot of passion, and a lot of people care about the sport, and it's definitely in a good spot.
I think there's a lot of talented teams out there. I think it's going to be a really, really fun season. And, one of the things that I think has been good, just to give you a perspective, because I think 2019 was the last year there was just one Class 5 and then Class 6 came into play. And I think that's been really good for the sport in the state, having the Class 5 and Class 6 there, because I think you've had some real competitive classes in Class 5 and 6. They've been very competitive. I think it's a little more even across the board. It's always better to be the top end of the Class 5 than the bottom end as far as population. I think that's true. Anybody would tell you that. But it's still, I think it's been pretty competitive across the board.
Yeah, I'm fairly, I'm not new to Missouri high school baseball, but I know I'm more familiar with the Class 4 teams, but just following it from afar, I would agree. I mean, there's some great teams top to bottom in those classes, and you're right. We did add a 6th class a few years ago after we added the 2.0 differential, and it's definitely made it very competitive, and it's been fun to watch. And I know it's fit in well with the schedule. We go 6 days for the state tournament now, having that 5 and 6 class finish us up on the last 2 days of competition. And certainly excited about this season and looking forward to see who comes out at that final site.
I want to start off the conversation, something Kenny was really, worked hard at and whatnot, started the umpire program here with MSHSAA, and I wanted to ask you, it's been, I think, a couple years at this point, and I don't know how familiar you are with it or that process, but how is that moving along?
So this area back here is basically production. They do a lot of the artwork back here. They do the production. So any of that stuff that comes in off of, we'll say, our fanware stores, stuff that comes in off the team stores, a lot of the coaches wear, a lot of the last minute, hey, we got to have it in the next 10 minutes stuff. That's all comes back here. This area is where all the day-to-day stuff that comes in really goes through. The retail store is its own little entity. This is where the real work is done.
Well, I believe, are you referring to Ref Reps, that program
Yes.
that was started? Okay. Fairly familiar. I do know this about it. I know that we really understand that there is an umpire shortage, not just in Missouri, but around the country. And you got a lot of older umpires, and we need to get that next generation of umpires interested and getting them involved in our games because it's just needed. So Kenny especially has done a good job of really trying to get ahead and of recruiting and trying to get information out. I know that our office has done some things to try to encourage schools to get their kids involved. I know that we implemented a program to where each school is allowed one female and one male's high school senior to get a free registration, get that fee waived for their first year of officiating. And so schools have the ability to locate and recognize who those people are, and they can send in folks to our office and they get a free registration fee for that first year. So that's been helpful. But when you're referring to the Ref Reps, it's still in the early stages of it. There's not a lot of data saying, that I can give you right now that's going to say, yeah, it's definitely increased our umpires around the state. I can tell you this, that a lot of schools have implemented this program. They've developed this they implemented this into their curriculum, into some of their classes. And so, and they get credit for it. So they just kind of build it in as a unit plan. And they take these courses and they can sign up for whatever ones that they choose. And, and if they do take this, that also, takes a registration year off as well. But, we feel like it's a great program to get umpires started and officials around the state and a lot of sports. And I feel that and I feel the same. I think the office feels the same, that this is a great program and it's going to be great and it's going to definitely get some more people involved in this. But right now it's just too early to tell how many people are taking advantage of this. But, right now those high school students can't register for the postseason or do high school games or officiate or umpire high school games, but they can at the lower levels. So they can definitely be registered officials for the junior high and then at the youth levels as well. But I think it's a positive program. I think it's going to be great. But I still think we need a little more time to see it grow before we can actually start seeing some of the benefits of it.
Well, I'm very interested in this because I officiated for a while, and I officiated actually for about 13 years. And I haven't done it in a while because work and stuff, and it just kind of, but I want to get back involved in that stuff. And so I'll follow up with you as we, after the show here, because I'd like to see what we can do with Youth Baseball Midwest. How can we can help you guys with that? So I think I hate to cut you off.
No, you're fine. It's just officiating is such it's a great opportunity to give back to the sport. It also keeps you involved. I also officiated for a few years at the lower level for baseball and softball, and then I got into some high school wrestling officiation after I stepped away from the coaching realm. And I can tell you that I really enjoyed that experience, but it definitely takes some mentorship and some experience and some confidence to stay with it. It's not an easy job and not everybody can do it, but I think it's up to all of us as fans and administrators and folks like yourself to get the word out that this is a good thing, and we need to kind of give them a break and let them do their jobs, and especially those young kids. We gotta support them and make sure that they're in there for a long time.
Absolutely, I agree. And so parents, I'm going to say this: you're watching, please, especially at the youth levels, don't yell at the umpires. Give these kids a break, okay? Oh, shoot. I want to, we have Daryl Bradley here on the Prime Sports Midwest call-in link. And our next subject here we want to catch up with, there is some consternation. And I say this, there's always things to improve on. And I always talk about these things. To me, these are conversations. You guys have a job to do. It's a tough job. Everybody knows there isn't a job out there worth doing that isn't hard and has its ups and downs and its issues. But when we talk about class assignments, I know we've talked about this in the past with other folks, and but there's got to be a way, and I don't know, and this is just me, and we talk about this because we're out here, we're trying to predict winners. That's it's selfish reasons, actually, Daryl. So, but because it's tough, because this year, we're doing this, we're talking about teams and stuff, and I see all of a sudden Glendale's now Class 6, and it's a few teams, it's not a lot, but it happens. Springfield Catholic got bumped to Class 5, and I think that was a championship factor scenario, and I think John Burroughs, they got to Class 4, I think it was this year, or Class 5. They got bumped, and I guess that, again, is another championship factor. So help us understand, is there a way, I don't know, how can, the games are started and the class assignments come after the baseball season starts?
Well, we now, instead of doing it 2 years, and I really didn't understand. I mean, I kind of understood some things before getting in this office, but I really got a better understanding. But those enrollment numbers are due in the spring, so I know that schools are going to be entering that. And still, we're waiting. And the reason those district assignments are released, and they are based on geographical region or geographical placement and balance, not necessarily, it's not competitive balance, but that's what our bylaws state, and that's what our membership has put in, and so that's what we follow. But we wait until the last moment. We're waiting for because you can add, you can drop up until a certain point. We're waiting till that last minute to really make sure we have the most accurate numbers that we can to separate our classes. And then, when I'm looking at district assignments, it's not just myself. We got several sets of eyeballs looking at this to make sure that we try to get it as correct as we possibly can. We're human. We're not perfect by any means, but I'm looking at dots and numbers, to be honest. I mean, that's the process. Once those classifications are set according to our board policy. So if I'm looking at Class 1, I'm looking at colored dots and numbers, and we're trying to get them as close together as we possibly can. And that's the goal. And you don't even look at schools at all, and then you may look at it and it may change over the week. You get some other ideas. Everybody on the staff, our execs, look at each of those class and district assignments for each sport, and we try to get it the best that we possibly can. And so that's the way that those classifications and district assignments are handled. But like you said before, you mentioned Glendale moved up, and John Burroughs and Springfield Catholic, and you mentioned the championship factor. And you're right, those things, they change from year to year. Enrollments go up. And I looked, Springfield Catholic went from, originally they should be a Class 3 school, but they're a Class 5. And John Burroughs, they should be an original Class 4. They're in Class 5. But, all those things, people going up for the championship factor, enrollments going up or down, it could definitely change the district layout as they were from the previous year. But we wait until the last moment to make sure we get the most accurate numbers, and so that we, make sure we're not, just to make sure we're not making changes after that deadline happens.
I think one of the difficult things, and I've talked to some of the coaches, the school, and I think the championship factor is about the private schools. Am I correct?
Yeah, and the non-MSHSAA schools, private schools. So when you refer to the championship factor, it only applies to those private schools.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's based on a 6-year scenario, correct?
Correct. And I can go over those points.
Yeah, we will. I want to, it's curious to me because it's like, Springfield Catholic. It's interesting, they get bumped to Class 5 this year, but they lost to their big arms, those kids that really could carry probably in a Class 5. I still think they're very good. We saw them this past week. I think they're a very good baseball team, but I think that's difficult in that longer span of time. Is there a way to shorten that to where, because I think sometimes the kids that are left into that championship and are bumped up, that's a tough gig.
Well, and that's something that's been discussed in our membership. I know they had an ad hoc committee. They said that and I could be wrong here too with the historical preference on this, but I believe that I've been on some committees that have been a part of this discussion. This was 6 years. That was originally put in because they wanted to make sure that this went through, and this came from the private schools, just to make sure. They didn't want to go 4. 6 was just kind of the year they landed on, but it's been revisited, and the membership schools have been polled, and we're still having discussions on that. But you're absolutely correct. You could have a team that went to the Final Four or even won a state championship, and it's affecting those 7th graders. It could affect those kids that had nothing to do with that championship. And that's something that is being looked at right now and talked and discussed. There's no headway right now on it. But I believe information went out in the area meetings. It went out in the questionnaire about what do you think we should do about this? Because those are some of the things that maybe they might have been thought about or talked about when you came in, but they just wanted to get this passed, this championship factored in. But I believe they might have went off of Illinois model maybe. But I don't disagree. It definitely can be looked at a little further, and probably the one to talk about this subject in our office is Lou Mazzacco. He's in charge of the AD advisory, and I know that he's been meeting with these folks for over a year now. Definitely give you a little more background about where they're at, but certainly that discussion has been thrown out there a lot.
What you said right there, Daryl, I think it's tough sometimes for people, parents or coaches, are sitting on the outside. I think coaches are more privy to this, but the Joe Schmo like myself, and I appreciate the fact that, and I've always asked you guys these questions, and Misha's been nobody is going, oh, Brian, don't ask me that. You guys have always said, hey, here it is. This is what we do. I've always appreciated that. And it's tough because, as you said, Lou and that group, they've been talking about this for a year. So it isn't that the conversation is being had, but sometimes, it's not just always easy to come to the right solution, is it?
It's not. I mean, we represent, our member schools, and we certainly, and right now, I mean, from all the data that we've seen, our member schools don't want to get anything changed. I mean, according to some polling numbers and things, I would think that they were in favor of keeping it the way it is. But there's been, some things thrown out there. Should we go at 4 years? Should there be some type of, like I said, Luke could talk on this more. Should there be some type of system to where if they don't have that success, does it decrease some points somehow? There's different models out there, and we just want to try to do what's best and what our member schools want.
I got you. Well, and I wanted to ask you about this because we had, and I know Coach Wilson from Staley, he's retiring this year.
Yeah.
But he had proposed, and I don't know how familiar you are with this yet. And if you don't have a lot of information, I get it because I know you just took over. And sometimes, just taking the first year, just trying to get yourself acclimated to things.
Yeah. I'm familiar with it, but Doug Fessler might be able to better answer it. But I can certainly provide some background and some things on it.
Well, we talked about they've been trying to reset, or restructure the playoff system, and honestly, to me, I think the playoff system in the 1, 2, 3, 4 is fine because these schools aren't big enough to put themselves in that kind of place. And I think this is limited to I think a larger school thought process when you talk about it. I know Coach Wilson is proposed, some tournament plays, a best of 3 and things of that nature. Early on, what are your thoughts to that? And, especially with the Class 5, especially Class 6, because I think the baseball in Class 6 in this state is definitely good enough for something of that nature.
Sure. Well, I'll kind of go back and just go over the recommendation from Coach Wilson. I did happen to be in the advisory committee meeting last year, so I did have that opportunity to hear this presentation. But to start even further back, I believe there's been several proposals over the years over a different playoff system. This mainly focuses on the larger classes, on 5 and 6. That's all it does. And now, so it was. There's been several proposals, and there maybe not. This is more structured towards Class 5 and 6. This proposal has gone further than a lot of the previous ones. I can start off by saying that when you're talking about going to a best 2 out of 3 proposal, but this went and the talk about the process. Anytime something gets changed for baseball, it's later rather than sooner because the process for getting things changed is not a quick turnaround like people think it is. So this proposal came from the advisory committee. It was heard from the board in October. Doug did not get an opportunity to present this in the July meeting because he was ill at the time, and it got pushed to October, which it wouldn't have mattered anyway. But basically, this proposal got pushed through. It got pushed back from the board, and they wanted some more information. So they tabled that, and they sent it to AD Advisory. Okay, AD Advisory discussed it, and they recommended that we bring this topic to area meetings. Okay, and then from there, we went around the state to our 8 area meetings around the state in January. And discuss this proposal to the ADs or principals or superintendents that were in the room, and they were polled, and about 60. It was about a 60-40 split according to those polling results in favor of changing it. But the recommendation is for the quarterfinal round in Class 5 and 6 only. To be formatted a best 2 out of 3 series, because currently what we have is classes 1 through 4. They have a sectional round, then they go to the quarterfinal round, and then you go to the final site with 4 teams. But for classes 5 and 6, they have more teams in their district.
Yeah.
Okay, which eliminated that sectional round. And they go straight to the quarterfinals, which means you could possibly have one dominant pitcher pitch in that district championship game, pitch in the state quarterfinal game, and then potentially pitch in the state semifinal game. And so that is a little alarming, and I think that, there's definitely there's some people in favor, there's some not, but that's kind of where we're at. So we took it from area meetings, and it went to the questionnaire that went out to schools. And now I that's not public knowledge, and honestly, I don't even know where we're at there. But ultimately, it will continue to be discussions with our office, or the board will make that final decision. So I can't speculate on to where we're at with this proposal, but I can tell you that this proposal for a best 2 out of 3 for classes 5 and 6 has gone a little further than any other proposal we've had. So I think that is encouraging to those folks that really want to see this. But, I can go over some pros and some cons that we've kind of discussed. Some pros. Of course, you'll need more than one dominant pitcher to reach the state finals game. So that is a pro. Maybe bring more strategy to the game, as coaches have to game plan with more games to be played. Since class 5 and 6 potentially play one less game than most of the other classes. Even though they have more resources. So they play less games, but they have more resources. That's a pro to maybe add this. And then the larger classes, both have athletic and the financial resources to sustain a series. Okay. But, some of the cons could be, but larger schools may not see some of these as cons, because they have financial support, or they can afford a hotel room, to stay in a place to play a best 2 out of 3 series. Because you play that first game on Friday, the second game on Saturday, and if a third game, if needed, you play Saturday afternoon. Extra, it's just more expenses. So that is one thing. Extra expensive umpires. MSHSAA is not concerned about that, though. And then I think number one is just changing the mindset. It's just a big philosophy change and different. And just that question about maybe, all right, would other sports want this? Would the lower classes want this? Would class 1, 2, 3, 4 have that opportunity? Would they want this opportunity? So I guess just overall philosophy change of the way the playoffs have been done historically, and what would that look like for the future? And then probably the last thing is potential weather. We're always concerned about getting games in that short frame time period, and if you're trying to get a minimum of 2 games versus 1 game, so that is certainly a concern. So like I said, a lot of discussions on it. I think it's going in a positive direction. It remains to be seen where we're at, but it's certainly right now, from the information we have, I mean, it's about a 60-40 in favor of adding this.
I love that. Well, and to the one point, I think with the rain and stuff, there's more turf going on, so that helps that in that respect.
Certainly.
So I think that, and I think those are fair. Those are all fair points. I think so. And I think it's tough because I know sometimes, when you're talking to administrators, most of it's ADs, and things like that. It's like you said, it's just who's, just the thoughts of the people at the time. I think it would be good for the sport. I'm just looking at the sport in general.
Sure.
Because I think the biggest point, and you brought it up, is just the way baseball's played. And there are so many good pitchers out there right now in this game that we talk about that don't get a chance to pitch in the postseason sometimes.
Yeah.
And you know, and we want these kids to have that experience. In that respect, you're trying to get your team to a championship, and I think that's sometimes, you know, some of those kids miss out on some of that stuff. That's just me. That's an opinion. So there you go.
Sure. and you know, it's not just a group of, and that's a big misconception that people have. I believe that Michigan just sits around here and tries to, you know, kind of dictate everything that goes on. I think that a big misconception, and it's something I've tried to fight, not fight, but it just educate folks on, we are advocates for our schools. Mm-hmm. And if this is something that would be favorable for everyone involved in our schools, and I think our board is going to make an intelligent, educated decision on what is best. You know, I mean, we are here to interpret and enforce our bylaws that are set by the school. And I think that, you know, I think the folks that work in this office are big advocates for our sports, our fans, our players, and our administrators, you know. And, you know, I think if this is something that our schools want, I think our board will listen and do what's best for everybody involved. But I you know, I definitely feel like it's gone in a good, positive place. I mean, because I do think it's kind of down there to where somebody's going to make a decision, and I think we'll hear it sooner than later.
Very good. Well, Daryl, those are the things that were at the top of mind, but I want to give you the opportunity this first year. You know, what are some goals you have in mind, the thoughts that you have for the upcoming season? I know that I think we have this year and 2 more years in Springfield, correct?
We're actually in Ozark.
Yeah, Ozark,
the Springfield
right.
area, yes. Yes. It's actually Ozark Mountain Sports Complex. So, yeah, we have a couple more years after this one there. But to answer your question, I'm taking it day by day. You know, there's so many things that I'm learning. Like I said, I've been in the AD world for a long time, and it's just such a big transition. My goals are, I want to be an advocate, you know, for our coaches, the sport, our administrators. I want to just do the best job that I possibly can for those folks that have that passion for the sport of baseball. And I just want them to know that I'm going to do everything I can for them. I want to put on a great postseason and try to assist those managers the best way I can into helping them run a great competition in the postseason. And then I want to continue the excellence that we've had at the state tournament, you know, and hopefully good weather will follow. But if not, we'll figure out a plan. But those are my goals. But I think that I've proven over the last, 8 months or so with my previous sport with wrestling that I'm going to do my best to get back to people as soon as I can, answer any question that I can, and then just try to, just listen and be there, and then try to help them through any situation that they might, they might go through, But I will certainly throw this out there, all you coaches out there listening, please, I need to recheck this. Please read your manual, put your pitch counts in within 24 hours, and then have your pitch verification form filled out if there's any questions. So those are the things that are kind of keeping me busy right now, but it's not a bad thing. I'm blessed. I get to work with sports every day, and very happy to be a part of this team.
Very good. Very good. Well, Daryl, we do appreciate you taking the time out of your day, and I know you're busy, to take a few minutes and talk with us and share information. I love the candidness that you guys bring to it, and I appreciate. I mean,
yeah,
I really do.
You're welcome. Well, I'd love to be back on anytime. This was fun. I appreciate it. I was sweating a little bit. I didn't really know, but you're very easy to talk to. I appreciate what you do for the sport, and it's a great podcast. So thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. We appreciate it. And we'll definitely get you back. And you have a great rest of your day, and we appreciate it, folks. Please make sure coaches and stuff, that's important thing is filling out that information. If something comes to you, make sure your thoughts are known. That's how Misha makes decisions. So always a great thing to do. Please, if you like what we're doing, take a moment, hit the subscribe button. If you like, also hit the dinger. Because, Daryl, chicks dig the long ball, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely. Love dingers.
That gets you notifications for upcoming episodes such as this, and we always appreciate people taking the time to watch. So everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, keep throwing strikes, and hitters, hit them where they ain't. We'll see y'all next time.